When a black housekeeper stole his billionaire boss's custom silver McLaren, the entire estate thought he had lost his mind. But no one knew the truth that the billionaire's 10-year-old son was dying in the passenger seat and no one else was coming. What happened next turned a so-called thief into a national hero. Before we dive into this powerful story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell because you don't want to miss the ending. Trust me, it's one you'll remember long after the video ends. Isaiah Brooks adjusted the sleeves of his worn uniform as early sunlight filtered through the towering glass of the Caldwell estate. After 6 months of working as a live-in housekeeper, Isaiah had learned every inch of the place, its silent halls, its gleaming marble floors, and most of all, its unspoken rules. Rule number 1, don't go near Mr. Caldwell's prized McLaren. But none of that mattered now. That morning, the mansion felt unusually still, and as Isaiah walked into the breakfast room, he immediately noticed something was off. 6-year-old Theo Caldwell, the only son of tech billionaire Dominic Caldwell, sat quietly at the table, too quietly. Normally full of endless chatter about race cars and comic books, Theo now stared blankly at his bowl of cereal. His little shoulders slumped. Isaiah moved closer, concern tightening in his chest. "Hey, buddy, you all right?" he asked gently, crouching beside him. Theo didn't respond. His spoon slipped from his fingers. Isaiah reached out, touched the boy's forehead, and froze. Burning hot, eyes dull, breathing shallow. "Theo?" he asked again, now trembling. But before he could react further, Theo's body gave out. The spoon clattered to the floor as he collapsed into Isaiah's arms. Panic surged through him like lightning. "Help!" he shouted. But the echo died in the cavernous silence of the mansion. No one answered. The chef was off for the day. The security team was handling a power outage at the back gate, and the intercom system had been under maintenance for nearly a week. Isaiah grabbed his phone and called. 911, estimated ambulance. Arrival time, 14 minutes. 14 minutes? The child in his arms barely had 4 breaths left. He called Mr. Caldwell's private line. No answer. Theo's breathing grew more ragged by the second. Isaiah's heart pounded. He looked down at the boy who had once hugged him out of nowhere and said, "I like you more than my nanny." His throat tightened. He had to do something, fast. Through the tall front windows, sunlight glinted off the polished silver hood of Dominic Caldwell's beloved McLaren, a machine so expensive and sacred that even Isaiah had been told to stay at least 10 feet away. But right now it wasn't a car. It was a lifeline. He didn't hesitate. Cradling Theo, Isaiah sprinted across the hall, flung open the front doors, and laid the child carefully across the McLaren's passenger seat. Securing him with trembling hands, still dressed in his housekeeper's uniform, shoes worn and heart racing, he climbed into the driver's seat, pressed the ignition, and slammed the accelerator. The tires squealed across the estate's gravel drive. Security cameras recorded everything. The gates opened automatically for the license plate. But Isaiah didn't care. Not about footage. Not about protocol. He only cared about keeping that boy alive. The city blurred around him as the car flew down the highway. Speed limits vanished behind him. He weaved through traffic, dodged a delivery van, ran a red light. "Hold on, Theo," he murmured, one hand gripping the wheel, the other reaching toward the boy. "Don't give up, champ. We're almost there." The dashboard pinged with speeding alerts, but Isaiah's only thought was that no one was coming fast enough. Back at the mansion, Dominic Caldwell stood frozen as his head of security delivered the news. "Your McLaren's been stolen," the guard said. "By who?" Dominic asked, confused. The answer hit him like a blow. "Your housekeeper, Isaiah Brooks." Dominic's eyes narrowed. "Call the police." But what he didn't know, what he was about to learn too late, was that Isaiah hadn't stolen anything. He was racing death with his son in the passenger seat. The silver McLaren screeched into the emergency lane of City General, cutting across 2 rows of honking cars. Smoke trailed from the tires as Isaiah slammed the brakes and leapt out. "He's not breathing," Isaiah shouted. "Somebody help, he's 6, he's not breathing." Doctors and nurses rushed from inside, stunned to see a luxury McLaren and a uniformed housekeeper frantically cradling a limp child. A trauma team sprang into action. Isaiah gently laid Theo into the arms of an ER nurse, his voice shaking. "Please, please save him." As the hospital staff disappeared with Theo through the double doors, Isaiah stood frozen, drenched in sweat and fear. Then came the sirens, not ambulance sirens, but police. A squad car skidded into the driveway. "Sir, step away from the vehicle." "Hands where I can see them," an officer barked. Isaiah slowly raised his hands, breath shallow. "I'm not a thief," he said, voice hoarse. "I was trying to save the boy. I had to get him here." "Turn around," the officer ordered. Cold steel cuffs locked around his wrists. Isaiah didn't resist. Inside the hospital, monitors beeped and doctors worked to stabilize Theo. Oxygen tubes, IV lines, and whispered commands filled the trauma room. Time was razor thin. Later, Dominic Caldwell's knuckles turned white around the steering wheel as he raced toward the hospital. His assistant beside him read updates aloud. "City General confirms your son is in the ER." He arrived with Isaiah Brooks. Dominic didn't say a word. His eyes stayed locked on the road, the guilt already clawing at his throat. Isaiah sat alone in a small windowless room, hands still cuffed, uniform damp with sweat and dust. He stared at the floor, haunted by what could still go wrong. The door opened. Dominic Caldwell entered slowly, flanked by 2 guards. The tension in the air was suffocating. Isaiah didn't look up. "I didn't steal it," he said softly. "I called for help. No one came. The ambulance was too far. Theo was fading. I couldn't let him die." Dominic's expression was unreadable. "I didn't speed recklessly. I talked to him the whole way. I didn't know what else to do." Before Dominic could respond, a nurse appeared behind him out of breath. "Mr. Caldwell, your son is stable." Dominic turned. "He's okay. He had an acute anaphylactic reaction, a rare allergic response. If he'd arrived even 5 minutes later." She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Dominic looked back at Isaiah, something shifting behind his eyes. "Take the cuffs off," he said to the officer. "Sir, do it now." The officer obeyed. Isaiah's shoulders slumped as the metal fell away. He rubbed his wrists, barely able to speak. "If you want to fire me, I understand." Dominic shook his head. "You saved my son." Isaiah looked up, shocked. "I didn't even know he was allergic to anything." Dominic admitted you knew something was wrong before anyone else did. Isaiah nodded faintly. "He's more than a job to me, sir." Dominic didn't speak for a long time. Then he quietly said, "You're not just staff now." Days later, flashbulbs burst as Dominic Caldwell stood before a crowd of reporters on the hospital steps. Next to him stood Isaiah Brooks in a clean blazer and pressed slacks, looking both proud and overwhelmed. Dominic stepped to the mic. "I built my company on precision and logic, but it took one man in a humble uniform to teach me about instinct and heart." He turned to Isaiah. "He broke a rule, but he saved a life." The reporters leaned in. "As of today, Isaiah Brooks is no longer a housekeeper in my home. He's now Theo's full-time caregiver and the founding director of our new national initiative, the Brooks Protocol, a program to train in-home staff in emergency response." Gasps and applause followed. "We're funding it with an initial $4 million donation," Dominic continued. "Because every second matters, and no one should be punished for saving a life." He turned to the crowd, voice rising. "If you think the person cleaning your floor is beneath you, look again. Because I almost lost my son before I realized the most important person in his life wasn't in my boardroom. He was already in my house." Reporters exploded with questions. But in that moment, Isaiah wasn't the maid, wasn't the thief. He was the hero who drove through fear, judgment, and flashing red lights just to save a boy who wasn't even his. And from that day forward, Theo never called him the help. He called him family.